Welcome to the Internet Money Podcast. Today I have my good friend Ty. He is the founder of the LinkedIn League and Mad Men Agency. So Ty, if you only had 1 minute to tell the audience how to launch and grow a successful online business, what would you tell them?
First, learn a valuable skill set. Mine was music when I was 14. So that was my valuable skill set. I ended up growing my agency to 8 employees. We won 4 awards, things like that. But you want to build some kind of skill set that you can offer as a service. I mean, in my eyes, a service-based business is the best way to get started in terms of like your foray into the internet money world and build a brand. You can pick a platform. I would choose one platform at a time, either LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook, probably Twitter or LinkedIn to be fair, and build in public, build that brand in public. Talk about your first client, your second client, the results you're getting them, the pitfalls, reach out to people, build relationships with both big and small people in the space. And I mean, you do that for 12 months, you're going to be successful.
Now, people are going to hear it and they're going to say, okay, valuable skill set. You started with music. What kind of valuable skill sets? If people are like, I come in here, I got no skills. Tell them about a skill that you would recommend they learn, or maybe, a plethora of skills that you think are valuable in today's market.
For sure. So I do not recommend music if your goal is to build a sustainable business. I mean, I was able to do that, but it definitely took a lot longer than it needed to. Anything in the marketing space, I mean, in terms of baseline skill sets, like foundational skill sets, email marketing. I'm not talking about like email marketing or personal branding. I'm talking about like copywriting, right? The more foundational skill sets that you can learn and you can take and apply to multiple different mediums, multiple different platforms, multiple different service offerings. I mean, the most important skill set I think is how to write, and you're going to use that throughout any kind of business. You're at least writing emails, if nothing else. So how to write, I think copywriting is probably the most valuable skill set that you can learn. And I mean, you'll use that throughout the rest of your life.
Yeah, and then you mentioned 2 other things. You mentioned pick a platform and build in public. So let's talk a little bit about the platform that you would pick today. Like if you were advising someone starting from scratch, new to the internet money game, or maybe they've even been here a while, what do you think has really good return on investment?
Man, it depends what your strengths are. Like for me, the first month I was on Twitter, November to December 2020, I got 3 million impressions. And I mean, at that point I was 22. I was, my music agency just disbanded it, just left. But I learned how to write at a really high level, which, kind of could see that with 3 million impressions in the first month. I would recommend, I mean, what are your talents? Are you really good at creating video content? Are you really good at creating text-based content? I'm really good at text-based content. I'm improving at video. But for me, a text-based platform was best. And I think the largest reach is probably LinkedIn or Twitter. And the thing is, I recommend like going hard on one platform at a time. Once you've mastered a platform, once I've mastered LinkedIn, let me take that and let me apply some of the stuff. Let me maybe delegate some stuff, systemize it, automate it. Now I go to another platform. So one at a time in terms of like just scaling that up and getting started with it.
Now, you're mentioning Twitter right now, and this is where you seem to have started. Why then migrate to LinkedIn? I assume you kind of master Twitter at a certain point. You get a lot of impressions, and then you're like, is it like I need a new land to conquer, or you just see some kind of like arbitrage opportunity where
I was banned on Twitter. So I was, really long story, did a podcast about it. I was about 23, 24. Banned on Twitter. I was getting 10 million impressions a month in the summer of 2021. And that's why I started on LinkedIn. So I ran a company called Agency Empire. It was a community for agency owners, had 100 people inside, doing 10K a month, doing okay. But I was running that offer with a couple other offers on the back end of that. And I was banned on Twitter. So my large traffic source is getting about 1,000 new email opt-ins a month with that was taken away. So I was like, okay, cool. Where can I go next? And that was why I initially migrated to LinkedIn and started doing that late 2021, early 2022.
And yeah, before we get too deep into, maybe we'll go into LinkedIn strategy. Tell us a little bit about that initial offer that you had on Twitter. If you were getting 10K per month, 1,000 sign-ins per month. Pretty good.
I was getting 1,000 people to opt into my email list. So that was like free. I had 100 people inside my Agency Empire offer, paying me $97 a month. And I was basically trying to build the best offer ever created for agency owners. So with the community, I learned you don't want to, there's this thing called content overload. It's when someone joins your community, membership site, whatever, and you're just giving away too much. There's a bunch of, I created like 15 courses for this thing. We had like weekly calls. I had this series called Weekly Secrets. I signed partnerships with like 33, 34 software companies that gave us an exclusive discount. So there was too much going on, and I didn't realize it at the time. I was just breaking even. I was paying a full-time developer to build out all this crazy, unnecessary shit. But yeah, that was the offer, Agency Empire. And I had some back-end like courses and stuff like that as well, and doing pretty well.
Yeah, that's a quite curious thing. I think you're the first person to talk about content overload. We've had people talk about how to like successfully onboard people into communities, but let's talk about like, let's say you wanted to start Agency Empire V2 tomorrow. What kind of things would you do differently today?
I would completely cut down on, I would do 5% of the content. I would have a flagship course and maybe do weekly calls and have some kind of community where people can like send messages back and forth and network and make friends. And that's it. I would provide the minimum viable thing to get people a certain result. I wouldn't go above and beyond product wise, like 10 times more than I needed to, because at the end of the day, like it's detrimental to the success of whoever joins your community. So I was trying to gamify it, and I had all this like crazy content and courses, and one amazing course, weekly calls, a platform where people can talk to each other. That's it.
Yeah, and your pricing was what was it, 97 a month? Now most people would
Yeah,
categorize that as a low ticket where you would try to
sure.
ascend people into maybe a high ticket program or an ultra high ticket program. Talk to us a little bit about like that funnel. And was that the goal, or did you just want to have some kind of low ticket product?
So I was like running around with it like a chicken with my head cut off at the time. Up until November 2020, I was just a music guy. So from May 5th, 2012, first day I downloaded FL Studio, started producing, until November 2020, I didn't do anything outside of music in the marketing space, right? Obviously, I like did like cold email and stuff to get all my clients. I, used other skills and stuff like that within my company, built all this like back end, had 8 employees, but I never built a funnel. I never had like a coaching offer, never had like a agency offer other than my music agency. So I didn't really know what I was doing. And I had somewhat of a hard time building out the back end to that because I just didn't know. And then I spent 25K on Facebook ads that I never ended up running, and 10K a month on Instagram help, and 10K or 5 or 10K a month on YouTube help. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I wasn't deploying my capital efficiently whatsoever. And yeah, you asked like, what would you recommend people to do? I kind of lost track of the question there, Jax.
Yeah, it was essentially along this line of like the V2, and initially when you had it, it was $97 a month. So most people would think of that as a low ticket product.
Sure.
Then to try to send people, and the way I was tracking your question or your response to the question seemed to be like, "Hey, I was so new to this game, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was putting out valuable content, but in terms of like ascending people to other higher ticket offers or having like a very focused strategy on we'll call it like client ascension." Was quite difficult. Is that what I'm tracking?
Yeah. And then I ended up launching this thing called 10K Launchpad. It was like go to 0 to 10K a month in an agency in like 3 months or something. And it was like 4K for the coaching offer. And I was attracting people that did not make me passionate about what I was doing. And it was a little frustrating working with people that are basically brand new. So that's what I would change if I can go back. I mean, I wouldn't change anything if I can go back in time, but now my coaching's 10K. I'm attracting like a way higher quality clientele. I have my agency doing really well, working with people that are at least doing 20, 30K a month, like bare minimum. And I'm launching this consulting offer within a few weeks here, where I'm targeting like higher end, like B2B SaaS platforms and like training their sales teams and SDRs that are making like already millions a year. So I think a big thing for me was realizing like, okay, I put out these courses, I put out this coaching program. It's mostly for beginners. A lot of my content and like my tactics you could use to scale to over 100K a month in an agency. But the way I was positioning things was very beginner focused in terms of like specifically my back end offers. And yeah, now I'm like, I made the shift to like one, deploying my capital more effectively, but also two, making sure like I'm attracting and I'm qualifying for that higher end clientele. Like I turn people away if they're not already making at least 10, 15, 20K a month. There's no shot. I mean, I could help you. I could introduce you to people, whatever, give you some resources. But in terms of us working like together, hand in hand, can't really do that for
Yeah,
my own soul.
that makes complete sense. Yeah. I've heard people go high ticket and then to low ticket to kind of like nurture people in. So people might go back to the episode with Christian from List Kit / Client Ascension. They have the Internet Money course, and then they have obviously Client Ascension. I'm sure they have paid masterminds even past that. So let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn and your current product offerings, because I know you're the founder of the LinkedIn League and the Madman Agency. So let's talk a little bit about like one, the transition to LinkedIn, because you got banned. Then you go to LinkedIn to, I assume, seek out greener pastures, and talk to us a little bit about like how you end up mastering that platform and then creating your offers.
Right. Well, man, I've been doing cold emails since I was 14 with my beats. Like I ended up doing a song for G Herbo, who's a pretty big rapper out of Chicago in 2014, 15 on his mixtape called Welcome to Phaso Land. Funny story. He actually stole my beat, sent it to him through a cold email. Long story. Ended up getting paid for that, thankfully. But I've been doing that my whole life. And I took a year and a half off work in 2022 to 2024, even that year and a half span, those 3 different years. And I was living off my music royalties here in Miami. Still do pretty well off music royalties. I could live off those if I wanted to. But basically like 6 months ago, me and my girlfriend get pretty serious. We talk about having 6 kids together. Like we both want like a really big family. So I was like, okay, like, you know, daddy just making music royalties is not going to be enough. Like I could sustain maybe 1 kid on that here in Miami. So I was like, okay, cool. Let me get back into business. And I wanted something that I could actually build a life for my future kids and future wife and all that. And that's how I got started. So 4 months ago, 4 months and some change now, late April of this year, 2024, I launched Madman Agency. And then a month and some change ago, I launched LinkedIn League, my coaching program, the done with you like iteration of that. And yeah, that's how those came about. So I've always had the skill set of like B2B outreach and sales. I made over 3 million with like pretty much just cold email and LinkedIn DMs. I've launched all these offers, helped a lot of people do it. And so far it's going incredibly well. I'm getting some great results from my clients.
And let's talk specifically about what is Madman Agency, what is LinkedIn League. So let's describe both those offers, and then talk to us a little bit about like what you're doing there.
Absolutely. So I've seen a lot. There's so many ghostwriting agencies and freelancers out there, and they focus on blowing up personal brands. Madman Agency, it's in the same like arena of like, hey, we're building your personal brand, but the results that I'm trying to get is completely different. So I am all like revenue based. You come in to work with me either through my agency or my coaching program. I also do consulting, which is more custom. My goal is to make you money. I don't care about followers. I don't care about views. Secondary, tertiary effect of what I do is that you are going to get followers and views and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's like revenue based. So I bring in people and we build their LinkedIn page. It's 3-pronged, one-time profile setup, and then ongoing content and DM outreach. We bring them in 4 to 5 posts a week on LinkedIn, build their profile, make it like incredibly trust building. They're selling one specific offer to one specific niche. Put 4 or 5 posts out, educational, social proof, telling stories, teaching lessons, connecting with 200 people a week on LinkedIn. So maxing out those connection requests on average about 25, 30% to 60% niche depending, or it depends on niche, like 30 to 60% of your connection requests will be accepted. So that means we're starting 60 to 120 new conversations every single week outbound. We do outbound to every single person in our target market that we've connected with. And probably 75 to 80% of the calls we're booking, it's all like, let's get you some sales calls. Let's close you some clients, close some deals. 75 to 80% of those calls that we're booking are through outbound. And we're using the personal brand as a like pseudo landing page and substitute of a website. And we are using the content to for sure build authority and for sure like attract new people, but mostly to nurture that audience and those connections, people that accepted your connection request. So it's like, it's similar to ghostwriting agencies. I mean, I write content. for my clients, and I advise them on content in my coaching program, LinkedIn League, but it's very, very outbound based, where you're using everything else to really aid the outbound efforts. And you only get 200 connection requests a week, and we're booking about 5 to 10 calls a week for every client that we work with outbound. So yeah, it does really well, but also it's all like manual. I don't touch automation at all, and that's a big reason why what we do is so effective. Not even really mentioning the like my DM approach and how it's like so like vastly different from how everyone else does DMs.
Okay, so there was it seemed like a three-pronged approach. It was LinkedIn profile optimization. Then it's 4 to 5 posts per week, kind of educating people likely about our offer. And then it's maxing out the outbound. So you're doing 200 outbound requests per week and with zero automation. So not like our friends at Drippy where they're blasting out tons of cold Twitter DMs. You guys are doing zero outbound, and it's mostly relying one on the social
Zero
proof or
automation.
zero
We're doing zero
automation. So
automation.
tell us a little bit about then, are you setting up like Trello boards for people that like say like, oh, you have to follow up with this person? Like how are you like tracking it? Because if we think about like from the cold email perspective, you would have like an interested tab and you might like subsection people. Talk to us a little bit of how you're managing these like 200 DMs per week.
Right. So it's 200 requests a week. 30 to 60% are going to accept. So you're starting conversations with all those people. So 60 to 120 new conversations every single week. And at the end of the day, it's LinkedIn inbox is pretty simple. So we're just using we're using everything native. We're using the LinkedIn inbox. And whenever we get a reply, we just star the reply. And you can kind of go into like your focused, it's literally called your focused inbox or your starred inbox in LinkedIn, and see all the prospects who have replied to you, who you have conversations with. So we just like really manage it natively off of LinkedIn.
So anyone that responds to us, interested or not really, as long as it's not do not contact, it's going to get a star. And that's going to keep them in some kind of folder that's like, we need to follow up with these people. But like zero CRM, zero like tracking, just, hey, kind of who's ever in that starred thing, try to message them once a week? Like, let's say they go cold, for example. I think everyone kind of knows how to follow up with people that are
You'd
responding
be
to them.
surprised, actually. People don't know how to do that. Please check this message, or just bumping this up in your inbox, or a question mark, or a meme of Pablo Escobar, being impatient, standing around. People don't know how to follow up. But once someone books a call, then yeah, obviously we have like Zapier make automations, zaps you into the CRM. But in terms of like front facing marketing, like DM outbound, there is no automation until you book that call.
Mm-hmm. So, and you talked about how your DM script or your DM methodology like differed vastly from other people's. Talk to us a little bit about what's your approach in the DMs? Like what's the sauce that we can share with people here that they can
Yes,
use today?
question I've been waiting for here. Okay, cool. So someone accepts your connection request. What do? Right? So first thing you do is you go to their profile. The second thing you do is multiple touch points. So before you even send them a message, you go to their profile, you endorse their top 2 skills. You can do this on LinkedIn. You scroll down on someone's profile, you endorse that, you go to their current company page, you follow their company page, go back on their profile, go to their posts if they have posts, like a couple posts, comment on 1 or 2, try to frame yourself as an authority. Try to be love and positivity does a lot. Wow, you have such a beautiful family, or build yourself up as an authority. Oh, wow, I use this strategy and I'm scaling my 2 agencies up to over 100K a month, have something educational about yourself on there, try to like provide value. And then I always mention them at the end of the comment. And what this does is they're going to get a notification that they got that comment and that you mentioned them. So that's another touch point. And then what you do is you DM them, you press message by their little profile picture at the top of their profile. And the DM approach is simple, but it is pretty robust at the same time. It's simple for me. I've been doing this for 12 years. But it's basically like you're going to send 2 to 6 messages, initial messages. You don't do one big block of text. You're not hard pitching. You're social selling. You're starting what I like to call a multi-thread conversation, where you open them up. You talk about 2 different topics at the same time. You talk about 1, something personal, and 2, something business oriented. So it'd go like this. Let's say I was opening you up. Hey, Jax, or hey, JC. That's a message. I would send that. Hey, your name, period, or no period, or whatever. That's a message. Then the next one, I'll be like, oh, dig the concept behind internet money. Actually, a couple of my friends are guests, like Nick Abraham, who's a good friend of mine. And then it's like, you give them what I like to call a restrained compliment. Complimenting people is a way of showing that you did your research and you know a little bit about what they're doing, but people do it wrong. So they're like super enthusiastic. Wow, I love the podcast. Amazing. It's the best podcast I've ever watched. But then that frames you as someone who's desperate and needy, someone who doesn't have experience, who's never been there and done that. So I like, in terms of enthusiasm, you want to be between a 4 and a 6 out of 10, right? Dig the podcast. I'm listening to a couple episodes, whatever. Instead of like, wow, best podcast ever. I'm not, you know what I mean? Do that. And then you want to make observations about their business or about their personal life, like genuine, authentic observations. So if someone has a beautiful family, I'm like, you got such a beautiful family. I want to have a family. I want to have a bunch of kids one day, right? Or if someone's in Utah, I'm like, I always wanted to go down to Utah and ski. I've seen some 4K drone footage. It's incredibly beautiful over there. And then you ask them questions about their business, right? So it's some kind of, how long have you been running the podcast? How do you find new guests? Something like that, that's a little bit more indirect. Let's say I'm selling email marketing. I'm not going to ask them like, do you have someone doing your email marketing for you? Maybe I ask them like, what are you selling? Like, what's your actual offer? Or are you growing the coaching offer right now? Are you getting new clients for that? Something a little more indirect that's not as, they can't really tell that you were trying to sell them on something. And you send them a series of these 2 to 6 initial DMs, like separately. Write this, send, like 2 to 6 messages before they even reply. And the last message, you want to have something personal. So this is really important. The last message you send them in that initial series of DMs is what they're going to see in their inbox when they open it up. And if you ask them a question like, how are you getting clients right now? Or how long have you been running the business? Or something that's incredibly telegraphed that and scripted and fake, and they know you're trying to sell them something, they're not even going to open up your DM because they go to their inbox and they're going to see that last message. So with that last message, I try to add something in that's personal, right? So with this, you're like multi-thread conversation, meaning personal and business at the same time. You have this connect on a personal level, connect on a business level. You start the conversation here. It's kind of like an upside down triangle. You start it right here, and then you're funneling them like this into that sales call potentially, but really just into helping them out. I position myself as the friendly helper. And I help you out at all costs. I can make you introductions to people. I could send you some sales assets, some resources, free video training, whatever. Help them at all costs. And if the next step to me helping you is us doing a call together, then that's the logical next step in the progression of the conversation. But as long as you greet them, personalize, great observations, framing you as an authority, like as a genuine person trying to help, multi-thread conversation, I'm getting typically 10 to 30% response rates on DMs we send out. So out of those 60, 120 messages that we send out, initial DMs to connections, we're typically seeing, I don't know if we're seeing 6, we're seeing at least 10, 20 to 40, 50 a week in terms of replies. Sometimes it gets really high, 50, 60% response rate with this approach.
So you do a little research on them ahead of time. So essentially, as I see it, it's almost like a bit of a Dream 100 strategy, because maybe not Dream 100, but you're
similar,
creating some kind of background on these people ahead of time. Now, how much time are you spending on this research? Or is it okay, real quick, I see Jax has a podcast, boom, I see he has this guest on, be like, yo, I really love this episode, maybe read the description, send it a few things, hey, what are you building these days? And what was the final thing? Because you said not to telegraph too much the ask, that because they'll essentially get a preview message. Will they'll see hey, how are you getting clients these days? Ignore.
Horrible. The last message really important, and you want to connect on something personal, so it kind of bypasses everyone has, one, an automation radar. If they get a new DM, hey, is this automated or not? And 2, hey, is this person trying to sell me radar? And if your objective is to book a sales call with your prospects, you're not going to do well. You're just not. if your objective is to help them at all costs, right, be that friendly helper, and even if you don't book a sales call, okay, cool, how else can I help you? Can I send you this resource? Can I introduce you to this person? You want to have a solid network of people that you know. Um, if you have that kind of framework and mindset, you're going to bypass that automation radar, obviously, with all the personalization that we did and the research that we did. But you're also going to bypass that, hey, is this person trying to sell me radar? And no one wants to jump on a sales call with someone who's just trying to sell them no matter what. So if you frame yourself as someone who's just trying to help, and by way of that framework and that mindset, the next logical step is to jump on a call. And even if you don't, you're like, okay, how else can I help you? I have this free resource, this free training, boom, boom, boom. You're going to like see a lot better results. And I mean, you're going to come across as less sleazy, more genuine, more authentic, and all that stuff is going to bleed into the sales call too. Genuinely. So you're going to see better results and better close rates on the actual sales call as well if you have that frame and if prospects perceive you as that friendly helper.
Yeah, and I'd seen on your Twitter you had helped a guy named Justin who seems to, from what I understand,
Dustin, I think.
Dustin, create Discord communities. Talk to us a little bit about how you're to help him or someone like him and what kind of approach you take. Because it seems like, okay, there's profile optimization. Are you guys writing the content for them? What's going on?
Yeah, so it depends. I mean, with him, he was an agency client of mine. So we literally wrote all of his content. We did all of his profile stuff, wrote all of his DMs, got him all the calls. We booked him 32 calls in 40 days for he builds and manages Discord communities for influencers. We did that for him on LinkedIn. And it's literally the same exact approach that we've been speaking about, Jax, on this podcast, like literally the same exact thing. Obviously, it's niche dependent. If you're approaching financial advisors, you're not going to say, hey, brother, dig the hair, where you're going to be a little more suited and booted, a little more professional, with still that personal, casual side. It is like LinkedIn DMs. Also, the frameworks are like viable and applicable to like Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. But for him, yeah, it was very like he was reaching out to LinkedIn creators. So these people are like sophisticated, but also like incredibly casual. And it was that type of approach where it was the personalized reading, the restrained compliment, asking questions about their business that aren't too specific, at least to start out, and then connecting on a personal and business level, those multi-thread conversations, and able to like kill it for him.
Yeah, to me, it's a bit surprising because when I think of Discord, I think of maybe Twitter, I think of maybe gaming, crypto. Clearly you guys were able to find a lot of clients on LinkedIn. It somewhat surprises me that I guess I just don't use LinkedIn that much. Tell me about who's on LinkedIn.
Who is on LinkedIn? 1 billion people are on LinkedIn, I believe. A billion people are on LinkedIn. It's a little more sophisticated than Twitter and Facebook, and like very much so more sophisticated than Instagram and TikTok. Obviously, TikTok, I feel like, is the lowest common denominator in some cases. It's more sophisticated. It's a lot of B2B SaaS people. It's a lot of tech people. It's a lot of agencies. It's a lot of recruiters. It's a lot of salespeople. Anyone that's a little bit more serious about building a real business, for the most part, is on LinkedIn. Like, you're going to find a much more sophisticated market that's ready to buy higher ticket offers. It's ready to pay you $5,000, $10,000 a month. It's ready to purchase a $10,000 coaching package, $5,000 a month consulting package on LinkedIn. So it's a much higher quality buyer, for the most part, obviously niche dependent, than a lot of these other platforms.
So we've now talked about who's on LinkedIn. We've talked about even the DM strategy, the profile optimization, some of the I'll call warming up the cold DM. So doing the skill endorsements, things of that nature. Now let's talk about some of the content creation you guys are doing. Because I think content creation, it may differ between Twitter, Twitter, which probably many of my people are more accustomed to. So tell us a little bit about some of the differences and what makes people succeed on LinkedIn from a content perspective.
Man, I mean, there's all the secondary and tertiary things like sending those connection requests, like building your profile up, like commenting on 10, 20 people's posts a day that frame you in a positive, high status, authoritative light. And then obviously building relationships with influencers. So LinkedIn, just like Twitter, is very algo based, and the more bigger accounts comment and engage on your stuff, the better results you're going to see at the end of the day. So you do want to build those relationships with influencers as well. and do all those secondary, tertiary little things that, once stacked on each other, they make a big difference. And obviously the content piece. We don't directly sell a lot. Maybe if there's a piece of content and then there's a PS, hey, I'm only bringing on 3 more people for this, comment, send or DM or whatever. The keyword is comment this if you want to be next. Cool, we reach out to you. But for the most part, it's very educational. It's very value driven what I do. We mix in some lifestyle stuff. So it's not like, hey, look at my Lambo, but it's like, hey, look, I'm a cool person. Here's some personal stuff too. It's a personal brand. You're building a personal brand. It's not, here are 3 steps on how you build a DTC ad campaign. And that's like every post. So the cool thing is, and what I like to do is I like to weave in education with stories, right? So I'm providing value, but I'm like relating to my audience and I'm like giving them some transparency in terms of like my business stuff and my life stuff. And I'm combining that on a post. So like the best posts that I've done the best are like educational, story, and there's some kind of lesson that you learn in the content or in the post. I also do social proof. 10-20% of the posts are like social proof. I got this client this result, got that client that result. I like to weave in social proof with the education. Hey, here's how I made a client 30K on LinkedIn in the last 30 days. Here are the 4 steps, right? So it's social proof. It's building you up as an authority, but it's also educating your audience on stuff. And if you could add some kind of picture with that of you sitting, writing stuff, writing content or whatever, or some kind of like screenshot of the impressions or the calls that you booked them, some kind of screenshot of like the proof, then it's going to do a lot better. So like that's my content approach for the most part. 5 posts a day, 5 posts a week. 7 is better than 5, but 14 isn't necessarily better than 7 on LinkedIn. 1 post a day is a good cadence, and try to reply to every comment. And the cool thing is whoever engages with your posts, there's 3 tiers to who you're reaching out to on DMs, right? In terms of like warmth. Warmest people are the people that engage with your posts, either like or comment. They're going to be, it's easier to book a call with them. The second tier below that, a little bit colder, but still pretty warm, are profile viewers. So you can go to your LinkedIn, see who viewed your profile. And it's like, okay, cool. This person checked out my profile. It's a really good profile. I've built up trust with them. Let me reach out to them. And then the third tier are the people that are pretty much completely cold. But if you do a good job in the DMs, you could warm them up. And those are people who just connected with you, who haven't viewed your profile or engaged yet. So a big piece of the content is nurturing those people you connected with and building yourself up in their eyes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And I want to double back to, you were mentioning many of your posts incorporate some kind of like, I'll call it like almost edutainment storytelling aspect. Is there a specific storytelling framework you like? We're on the pod, we're big fans of the Epiphany Bridge from Russell Brunson. Like, is there a specific framework you follow, or it's just very inherent and you're just very good at storytelling without maybe the study?
There's no, like, I don't really take courses on how to write content. Like my first month, I got 3 million impressions on Twitter without taking any courses, without really knowing what I was doing. So I guess it's inherent inside of me. I definitely try to teach my clients how to do it. And in terms of the content format, a lot of coaching clients come to me and, their first few pieces of content that we end up revising and fixing are very blocky. So they're like big paragraphs. They're very like, it sounds like a white paper, some kind of like research report for like college or something, using all these big words. And at the end of the day, like you want to be friendly and casual while maintaining a high level of sophistication. So no like bullshit 6-syllable words, but also you don't want to say like BRB, LMFAO, ha 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 ha. You know what I mean? So there's like, sometimes I say ha ha. There's like a level of sophistication and friendliness that's like a balance. And I mean, your content should look like this in terms of like lines, right? So it's maybe a long line, maybe a medium line, short line, even one word can be its own sentence. And then you have a line break, short, medium line, long line, short line, short or long, medium line. So it's like you're kind of making your content incredibly skimmable. And what I also like to do, I like to incorporate numbers. I like to incorporate people's names. I like to incorporate like nouns that you capitalize, a lot of numbers. So it just like people have short attention spans, and the more, obviously the hook is incredibly important. The more you can like captivate that attention, and make your content skimmable for these short attention spans, the better results you're going to see. You don't want to have long, blocky text. You don't want to use like crazy, like professional jargon. You want to be captivating. You want your content to be exhilarating. You want it to teach someone a lesson, to like really elicit emotions, some kind of emotional reaction. Every piece of content is not put out there for no reason. Like it's content with an intention. It's content with a purpose.
And you talked about, kind of stopping the scroll, having a really important hook. Give us either some example hooks that you've used that have been highly successful, or things you've seen your clients use. So you mentioned using numbers. Give us some example hooks that you feel like really are like high potential.
Man, I love using social proof in the hook. So if you got some kind of crazy result for a client, you could say something like, I just made X client $94,762.24 in the last 30 days with Facebook ads. Here are the 6 steps I used to do it. And what that does is, one, it captivates right away, but it also is like, who the hell is this guy? Like, why should I listen to this person? And especially if you're new, you don't have that authority. So the more you like, for sure, captivate on the hooks, but if you can like sprinkle, like that little salt-based sprinkle, some of that social proof onto the hook, I like, that's a great strategy. So I use that as much as I can. Like, oh, I've closed over $3 million in cold email and DMs. Here are like the 8 mistakes you're making with DMs, right? Or I just made a client $42,000 in 28 days, which I did with my with Madman Agency, off LinkedIn DMs, right? Here are the 3 biggest things we did to drive that revenue. I really like using numbers in the hook, and I really like sprinkling that social proof in the hook to be like, you captivate, and then you're also like, okay, why the hell should I listen to this guy? Oh, okay, he's done this. So it's like, all right, let me give him my time of day. Let me read this post that could potentially be really valuable. Maybe I could replicate these results in my business as well.
All right. Well, you've been incredibly generous with your time. Let's get into some rapid fire questions real quick. So let's go with, what is the 20% of effort that has led to 80% of your results in business or your current businesses?
Dude, cold email DMs. Like, I made so many mistakes when I was younger. I'm 27 in a couple weeks here. Started as an entrepreneur when I was 14, and I was focused on a lot of BS. Like, I started 2 new businesses in 2018, one called Pronto Ads, one called Easy Lease. I was going to do ads for financial advisors with one, and then real estate marketing with another. And I spent like 10K on each website, like 20K total. I ended up not following through with those businesses. It's just boring to me. I like to have fun when I like do business. And I spent $20,000 on websites for no reason. Like, you don't even need a website. So like, focus on revenue generating actions, focus on like getting really good at a skill, creating some kind of offer, and then like, let me make money with this offer. Once you bring in 3 to 4 clients, focus on doing the best job you can for them. And also, don't like spread yourself too thin. A lot of people are like, okay, I've talked to people like this in the past couple of weeks, at least 2 or 3. I want to conquer YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram at the same time. It's like, no, dude, you can make 50, 100K a month off one platform. You're making 10, 20K a month right now. Focus on one platform. Focus on getting clients, getting them amazing results, conquer that platform, that form of distribution, then move on to the next platform. So in terms of the 20%, like, for sure, cold email and DMs, build that revenue, build that pipeline up and make money. Now you're able to delegate a lot of stuff and like turn your focus to other things that are not good ideas to turn your focus to when you're just starting out.
Now, what's a bad piece of advice that you hear in your profession, area of expertise? Could be agency, it could be coaching, it could be LinkedIn.
Wow. A bad piece of advice. I think a bad piece of advice is content. I think it should be content one time, don't repeat it 3 times, but DMs, dude, like, if you're not DMing every single new follower that you get or connection that you get from LinkedIn that's in your target ICP, right, your ideal client profile, you are not taking advantage of potentially like a really powerful platform for you. So DM literally everyone who's in your target market, who follows you on these platforms, but also like connect with new people. Go follow people on Twitter, like some of their posts, engage with them, reach out to them, use the approach that we spoke about. Do the same thing on LinkedIn. Like, it's not just about content, and like you can book pretty easily like 15, 20 on the low end to like 30, 40 calls a month. Sales calls, you close 1 out of 5, you're getting like 2 to 6 clients a month on these platforms. So content, cool, you need that, but DMs like are content. You might like get 10, 15 like calls a month, but with DMs you can get another 20, 30. And that's why I would recommend for a lot of people to put their focus.
Yeah, this is something I meant to mention earlier. So we send out the request, right? Then we're sending them that series of DMs. If they don't respond to it, are you following up? I assume yes.
Yeah, actually, my bad, I forgot to answer that part of your question about 30 minutes ago. I am following up. I'm not just saying, hey, just bumping this up in your inbox, or hey, Ty, did you see this message yet? It's like, give someone rope. Give someone something to grab onto, a reason to reply. You like being entitled of my time and like putting a question mark in there is not going to get me to reply. If you offer me value, if you're like, yo, I just created this resource, it could help you, here's the resource, or do you want me to send it to you? Oh shit, this is something that could help me in my business, let me reply. Or if it's like, hey, I know some people in XYZ space who might want to work with you or who might be able to help you grow. You want me to make an intro to them? Great, that's giving me rope. Like, let me get something from this interaction. And with follow-ups, so many people follow up and there's nothing to grab onto. Like, give me something. I'm not going to reply to you. So yeah, a big mistake people make with follow-ups, they don't know how to follow up. There's no rope to grab onto. You want to give them something. I call it foreshadowing value. If I reply to this person, what am I going to get? Right? You foreshadow, hey, I could introduce you to this. I know a person who's a killer in the cold email space. I know that you have a SaaS who you might, need cold email help with. Or I created this resource where it's my 10 private DM sales tactics. Are you doing any like DM outreach? You're giving someone that rope, so there's a lot higher chance they're going to actually reply to you. And then you're triggering reciprocation. Shout out to Robert Cialdini, where you give someone something that's rarely valuable. You want to make it really valuable. And now they feel a little bit indebted to you. So they're a lot more likely to have that conversation, respond to your follow-up, and then also jump on a sales call with you.
Absolutely. And now we're back into the rapid fire question now that we understand the follow-up. So what do you think is the current marketing arbitrage? When Hermosi was coming up, it was definitely, well, actually pre-Hermosi, it was Google ads. Then it was Facebook ads. Some people think it's TikTok shop these days. What do you think is the current market arbitrage that people need to be taking advantage of?
The current market arbitrage meaning what specifically?
Meaning there's a great return on investment. So when Hermosi started with Facebook ads, I think it was getting like a 29-1. Some people think LinkedIn impressions are very like underrated because it's just SDRs talking to salespeople.
Man, I am obviously biased, but LinkedIn is fantastic. And I mean, if you have an agency, your deal size is 50K, you spend 5 hours a week DMing people, you should book 3-4 calls minimum if you do it correctly. 3-4 calls over the course of a month, 15 calls in a month, you book 3 clients, you just made 150K, 5 hours a week. That's what, 22, 23 hours a month, you made 150K. Now, obviously you have to go fulfill, but that's $6,000, $7,000 or more an hour. So in terms of like what I'm dealing with and what I see in the marketplace, I don't know much about Facebook ads. I don't know much about TikTok shop. I don't know much about a lot of things, but I do know that LinkedIn is a really good opportunity if your target client is active on the platform. That's obviously the prerequisite.
And just because I don't think we touched on this, but I saw a YouTube video earlier that a guy was spending $1 million a year on LinkedIn ads. Have you looked at LinkedIn ads, or you're just like, hey, DMs, you're going to get a lot of, potential sales calls without having to spend a bunch on ads? Have you seen any efficacy there in LinkedIn ads, or you're not really concerned about that part of the platform?
I'm not really concerned on that part of the platform. Maybe I should be, to be fair. Like if they work, they work. But I'm more of an organic guy, and I like to stick to what I'm good at. Maybe bringing someone in third party to, help me scale up what I'm doing could make sense. But I mean, I just stick with what I'm like incredibly good at, and I have a huge competitive advantage at, and that's with like the front facing content and like back end, like LinkedIn DMs.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Now, if you could only If you could only recommend one business book to the audience that's not written by Alex Hormozy, what would it be?
I would not recommend a business book. I would recommend The Art of Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins. He has studied consciousness in in the highest scientific level that it's ever been studied. And your consciousness, your state of mind, whatever, is the foundation for everything in life. And if you go into business with a bunch of fears and a bunch of judgments and shame, like I did when I was a young 14-year-old kid, maturing into a young adult, you are going to self-sabotage a lot of potentially fruitful situations. And, I burned bridges, 100K deals off the table, 100K year deals off the table. And if I can go back in time, I would have studied consciousness way earlier. I didn't grow up with any kind of spiritual aspect in my life. So I would, if I can go back 20 years, I'd do that. But that book, The Art of Letting Go, where you learn these different emotions and frequencies and how to stay grounded, you need it, dude. In a sales call, you need it when DMing people. You need it in every aspect of business. So I've read so many business books. I stopped reading business books 2-3 years ago, and I delved more into the mental framework of what makes us human. And that has paid off for me like exponentially, like nothing else has. And it bleeds into The Art of Letting Go is just as much a business book as it is anything else. So that book, pick that shit up right now.
Everyone add that to the Amazon shopping cart. Now, let's talk a little bit about, so if you could only follow one social media channel for health, what would it be?
For health? Like I'm a health creator?
Yeah, like if you're like, hey, I get my health information. A lot of people say Hooverman. A lot of people.
Oh, all right. Okay, not a creator. I'm like a consumer. Twitter is amazing. Like Twitter has all this esoteric health shit that I love. LinkedIn's a little more professional, and you don't want to be political and you don't want to upset people and stuff like that. So Twitter, like I think a lot of the health shit is hidden.
Is it like Solbra? Is it like who we follow?
Oh, an account or a platform?
Yeah, give me an account.
Damn, I like Solbra a lot. I think Solbra. I don't know any ones off the top of my head. I mean, Gabe Pluguez is a good friend of mine. He does really good stuff with Default Kings and his whole program and his like front-facing content. Man, I think if you just like go into Solbra or Gabe or one of these health people, like see who they're following, see who they're interacting with, and you go down that rabbit hole, follow 100 people that you like, and you'll find something that you like pretty easily.
All right, how about a wealth account that's not Alex Hormozy or you?
Damn, same me, man. I like Daniel Fazio. I like Cold Email Wizard. Good friend of mine. We put out a course in January 21 called God Level First Lines. He does great stuff. His whole like multi-channel, like anything on his YouTube, anything on his Twitter is great. And then Nick Abraham's a really good friend of mine, and like these two guys have incredible content where it's not just platitudes. Hey, monk mode for 6 months and drink water, and you're going to be a transformed man. It's like, okay, here's how to get big enterprise clients in 11 steps. Step 1, boom. Step 2, boom. I like that. Like, give me something that I can take and run with. And that's what I identify with. And those two accounts are like the best ones for that, other than mine.
Actionable. We like that. Friends of the pod. Relationships. Who would you follow for relationship? It could be like, business networking. It could be like spouse stuff.
Man, you know who I don't follow for relationships? All these like anonymous masculinity accounts on Twitter that are like, here's the dark psychology and how you get a woman to be obsessed with you. First thing you have to do is not reply to her for 2 weeks. And like, okay, there's a very small piece of the overall pie, not that specific pie, that may be true. But there's a lot of that, like these 12-year-old kids like typing in their basement using ChatGPT, like putting out complete bullshit, and then they're leading men like the wrong way. And it's like, if you treat, there's a healthy masculine and then there's an unhealthy masculine. And I think just being discerning and always come from a place of love, peace, positivity. If you're not texting your back because you're coming from a place of fear or a place of neediness, I really want her to like me or whatever, like you can like discern these people and see kind of what like going back to The Art of Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins, like see kind of what energy they're coming with. And if it's from any kind of negative energy, then you just disregard it. So like all these like anonymous masculinity accounts that are like 12 years old from like Pakistan or something like that, like that's just it's just complete bullshit. They're all like virgins and that haven't gotten out of their house and like, so disregard.
The most common one we get is Chris Williamson for relationships.
Okay, cool. I like Chris's YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Now, what's the best purchase you've made for under $500 that's made the biggest impact on your life in the last year?
Zins.
Hey, that's the first time we've heard that, but that feels right for the audience.
Hey, baby, we got it right here, baby. No, I'm not promoting any of that. I'm about to throw this away, actually. Probably not, but what the under $500? I would say that the Art of Letting Go book, like I'm going to push that again. It's like $20.
Hey, we're doubling down. I like it.
Doubling down. If anything, under $500, man, my phone was $500. I got it on a nice little promotion payment plan. So I would say my phone, like if we had like 5 more minutes, I think it's something better, but
good. Now we'll get to my favorite question of all. Okay, so let's imagine you wake up tomorrow. Everyone forgets about your reputation. You've got no more job. Bank accounts at zero. Social media is at zero. All you're left with is your knowledge, credit card, laptop, iPhone, the essentials, a place to live. Could you outline us a rough 30-day plan and how you'd build back a profitable business?
Okay, day one would be spent on mourning. I would be grieving that. And just give me a day. Just give me 24 hours. Let me shed a few tears. Let me, come back to life a little bit. After that mourning period is over, went through all 5 stages, good to go. The next 29 days, I have my skill set. Like I would just spin up an offer that's like, $5K a month, $10K coaching program, whatever it is, helping people with the LinkedIn stuff. That's what I would do. And that's what I've done and, launched my coaching program a month ago, have 4 clients in there. It's $10K program. The agency is doing really well. So that's what I do. And I guess that's kind of what I've done because 4 months and some change ago, I started from basically zero. My personal brand, Facebook was dead. LinkedIn was dead. Twitter was pretty much dead. Email list was dead and haven't contacted these people in a year and some change. So was able to do that. And that just shows you like how much a really valuable skill set and experience matters. Like you can spin up a business that's made $35,000, $37,000 actually, and change in the last 7-8 weeks.
Wow. Well, congratulations on all this success. Yeah. And finally, talk to us a little bit about like any big milestones you have coming up and where people can connect with you online. Any like social medias, any websites?
Man, social media, Ty Frankel at I am Ty Frankel on Twitter, at the Ty Frankel on Instagram. Shoot me a connection request on LinkedIn. Tell me you watch or listen to this podcast. We can connect on there. My email is ty@tyfrankel.com. So tyfrankel.com. And yeah, that's where you can connect with me at.
Awesome, brother. Well, everyone, if you are still listening to this podcast at this point, you must really like either me or Ty or maybe both of us. So give us 5 stars, leave a comment, and connect with us both online. But if you're still listening to this point, get back to growing your agency. Come on now.